Welcome back to the show, everybody. We got a great podcast from Blockstars with David Schwartz, CTO of Ripple, and Antony Welfare of Ripple as well, talking about central bank digital currencies, adoptions, the challenges, and everything that goes along with it. And there is some really, really incredible highlights here, and I've got them for you. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Here it is, Blockstars with David Schwartz and Antony Welfare. And there is some remarkable highlights here. And we're going to start right here where they talk about citing an example of supply chain. And they use Walmart as an example. It doesn't mean they're a partner or what have you, but it's certainly an excellent example about how the technology can serve this world and where we're going and make it much more efficient. And then you're going to hear the conversation quickly change to cross-border payment experience and how countries and CBDCs are working on these things and what stage of development they're on. We're also going to get to a part of the conversation where we talk about the pressure from countries like China and Russia. Then you're going to hear about how long, and Antony Welfare's thoughts about how long till we see this mass adoption take place. Let's go ahead and get started. Here we go, right here.
Also for the larger companies, the banks and the institutions, it does help to change the way that the money flows in a supply chain or a value chain. And, we talk about the Internet of Value at Ripple. And, this helps to enable the Internet of Value by moving value up and down the supply chain or the value chain in a lot more quicker and efficient way. So if you take a quick example of a supply chain for Walmart, a physical one, somebody buys bananas. The bananas are sourced in a different country to where they're sold. And the banana grower may not get paid for months with the current system. With a CBDC, they could get paid technically instantly. So it helps move money around the system, which means less capital, less issues and complexities in the system, and obviously a better, more inclusive and innovative system.
So let's start.
There's areas around that which can speed up the systems. The other area to look at and think about is we live in a world where we're paid monthly. We pay bills monthly. Why do we do that? We do that because the financial system today doesn't work. It's not efficient and it's not easy to use. As an institution, be it a company, be it government, and paying numbers and millions of employees, you can actually technically then pay people on a daily or hourly basis. And that enables you to change the flexibility of the workforce, the flexibility of your offering, and really start to adapt to a world which is a lot more creative and a lot more innovative.
So they go on to talk about in the next clip about how there's many countries experimenting with central bank digital currencies. Ripple obviously working with an island nation and a sovereign nation with the Republic of Palau, Central Bank of Bhutan, which we all know. But then there's a spot that comes up here where David and Antony talk about countries skipping like the early tech that's out here now and getting the advantage because they may be further behind because they're smaller countries and they don't have the infrastructure we currently do, but they may be able to leapfrog into the DLT world and all the benefits that come from it. Check this comment right out, this clip right out.
Next years.
You think we could see something where emerging countries kind of skip the earlier technologies like we saw with countries that skipped landlines and went right to mobile? Could we see countries that skip the kind of banking system that we built here and jump right to CBDC-based systems?
Great question.
Yeah, 100%. It's, for me, I've come from a retail background and I saw where the mobile commerce took over very quickly and was very quickly adopted in some of the emerging economies versus some of the Western economies where they went through a very slow process from physical to telephone, et cetera, et cetera. So what happens if you look at the emerging economies is they have mobile phone access, and all you need for a CBDC is a wallet, which is normally a digital wallet, which you'd hold on a phone. You can do it offline. And so they can move quicker because, one, they've already got a very high penetration of mobile phone and usage. Secondly, their payment systems are not as advanced as the West. So the benefits of a CBDC are much more important and impactful in emerging economies. And thirdly, they tend to have a more innovative, less regulatory, less, slow-moving government and regulatory sort of environment. So that means that actually they can do this. And if you think about it, for the US, there's 250 million people, is something around that number. If you're talking about a CBDC for that, that's lots of wallets, lots of accounts. It's going to take a long time. But if you look at an island nation of 20,000 people, it's a lot easier to set up. It's still big, 20,000 accounts plus. It's a lot easier to implement that and work out the risks and how that will work. So emerging economies are definitely taking the lead on this, and the smaller nations, and they will benefit quicker, and actually they'll get some international benefits. The larger economies and the more established ones will then start to learn what works and then be able to catch up, over the next few years.
Yeah, I think what it will take to move those countries is they're going to have to see these smaller countries build and deploy successfully and get benefits that they don't have. Mm-hmm. And if, suddenly payments work better in Palau than they do in the UK, like that's going to get the UK to be like, wait, why are we lagging behind these smaller countries? But I think also,
so they go on to talk about the United States and how the payment system works pretty well there. And we all know that. I do want to remind people that I think it's something to pay attention to, however, because when you talk about the new FedNow system, which is a domestic system, and it doesn't need to settle with XRP. But if you think about the launching of a CBDC or the acceptance and the adoption of a stable coin as an official U.S. digital retail dollar, possibly the USD coin, I believe, then you're talking about organizing that domestic liquidity through that new payment system, which makes it very easy to access for cross-border payments and the settlement of derivatives and things of that nature now, doesn't it? Okay, so now I want to go up to the next clip here where we talk about the pressure, and it's really like a dream scenario that David Schwartz discusses here, and it's something that we've talked about plenty on this channel, is when you have a bad actor, a country that like China or Russia that really controls their people, pushing for this kind of move to be a leader in this space. And could that incentivize the larger countries like the United States to act on this technology, where at the moment they're reluctant to move into it and want to watch the smaller countries adopt it so they can learn the lessons through the smaller countries that adopt this technology and figure out what's best for them? Do they have the time or don't they have the time? Let's take a listen to this clip right here. Let me line it up.
Like a threat to dollar dominance, for example. Like if there was some credible threat to dollar dominance, like that, like I know it's kind of a fantasy here, but like if there was some other country, let's say a large country like, China or Russia that like implemented some system that was some sort of threat to dollar dominance, then you could see the United States responding. If they thought that a technological solution was the best solution, they'd probably, you would see a priority that you wouldn't see under any other scenario, despite their natural conservatism.
Yeah, I think so, David. And we talk about it here on YouTube all the time. I think you just became a wild speculator or a conspiracy theorist even. Careful, David. This crypto Twitter world will tear you up for thoughts like this, but it's very real. Even though it's the outside chance, it's on the table. It's possible. We're not talking about outside chance like a piano falling from a sky. We're talking about a threat that's very real because China is leading the race in the CBDCs.
Yes, there is a whole discussion about dollar dominance around this. And I think one of the things that happened 3 or 4 years ago was Facebook announced that they were going to do the DM coin, their own sort of coin. Within, I think it was about a day or 24 hours or something, the Senate in the US was talking about that because they realized that if this Facebook, it was Libra coin originally, would be a basket of coins, a stable coin globally. Why would you need the dollar? You envisage everybody in the world using this coin. Now, obviously, it's just not the way the systems work, and may never work that way. But that really did give the impetus for the larger countries to think about how to do this. And China's pushed ahead. China has a CBDC. It may not be a CBDC that we would use with a blockchain that we would use in an XRP ledger type solution, but they do have a digital version of their currency, which means that they could demand that payments for trade is made in a digital yuan, which is highly, highly challenging to the US. So I think there's a lot of things happening in the US now. There's lots of discussions and it's moving forward. So I think those two sort of reasons helped the catalyst to move forward these discussions.
Wow. Thanks, Matt. I've made the argument several times, like one of the common pushbacks that we used to get in the very early days is, why wouldn't you just use a centralized database? What's the advantage of digital ledger technology? And I always come back to security and reliability. Mm-hmm. Security obviously being absolutely critical here. You look at like conventional financial systems and you have to have 24-hour cybersecurity response to be part of them, and they rely on secure endpoints. And then you look at public blockchains like Bitcoin, Ethereum, the XRP ledger. These systems handle billions of dollars, and they're completely open to anyone to attack, and they have higher reliability and a better security record. It's quite astonishing.
Yes.
And it really is quite astonishing. And I tell you, now we're going to take you to a clip where they talk about David Schwartz asked Antony Welfare, how long does he see this taking here? What are we talking about till we really see the adoption and use of this stuff? And Antony Welfare gives what I believe is a very candid, real assessment and answer. This guy is in this space all the time. You may or may not like his answer, but I can tell you this. Barring some black swan event or the pressure of a Russia or China adopting this technology and then launching their own global reserve currency or something of that nature to really, really push things up for pressure and incentive on a United States, right? Or how about, we just had the other day, there was a central bank outage for hours. There was a 4+ hour, whatever it was, shut down at airports from some kind of an attack, I believe it was. What if we were to have some kind of black swan event like that on our banking system? I think something like that could really set the stage for a faster adoption rate if something like that were to happen. Now, I'm not wishing for it because I'm willing to wait for it. But I want to take you to this next clip now where they really get down to it. How long is adoption going to take here? And I'm glad that David Schwartz asked him his opinion. Let's go ahead and let it roll right here.
A change, innovation is always the opposite to regulation, and it always is ahead of it.
So I'll ask you to take out your crystal ball for a second and ask you, how long before you think we see some of the first CBDC deployments that can produce tangible benefits?
Yeah, it's definitely coming up. Now, when that is, I don't know. I'd say realistically, for smaller nations, 1 to 2 years. For the larger nations, the US, the ECB, and Japan, etc., the UK, you're realistically talking about 5 years plus still. Now, that doesn't mean we won't do trials and tests in the meantime, but I think to be able to start to use it to get the benefits, because you need the network effect of it, it still will take time. So, I'm sort of 3 to 7 years of where we'll really start to see the benefits from this.
Do you think individual citizens of these smaller nations will see the benefits in the short term?
I think they will, because most of the smaller nations have less advanced payment systems. And so one of the things CBDC does is help to improve the payment system. It makes it faster, cheaper, more instantaneous. You can do micropayments. So I think it helps move their countries forward. And as we talked earlier, leapfrog some of the more mature countries.
There you have it right there. And those are the highlights, ladies and gentlemen. The whole, obviously, conversation between David and Antony is fantastic. If you want to check it out, you could do it at Blockstars at buzzsport.com. But I do want to just say this in closing here. So Antony says, for small countries, 2 years, right? For larger countries like the US and others, we're talking 5, maybe 7 years, right? So 3 to 7 years is what he's looking at here. Now, obviously within that, you're going to see some adoption, some larger pilots roll out and things of that nature. What does that do ultimately to the price of XRP? I don't know, but I can tell you I'm here for it. Right? I'm here for it because I really, really understand what the ultimate end goal is. And the ultimate end goal is mass adoption of this technology. And that means that this foundational layer, the XRP ledger, can be tied into and interoperable with many, many other networks that banks may choose to use. So I'm not surprised about that in the future as well. Just like we have SMTP for email, and then you have a Comcast provider, a Verizon provider, an AOL provider, or whatever your provider is, or Google, Gmail, right? And those things. So this is getting very exciting for me to understand that this is happening. And I can't wait to see the smaller countries really start to adopt and get the benefits and advantages and put that kind of pressure on the larger countries like the United States. And I hope we don't have to have a black swan event to make any further adoption happen. All right, that's going to do it for me. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. I'll catch you on the next one.